And we are live. Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. Although I see on one checkup there is still nobody except for Maggie. I'm so glad you're back, Maggie. I missed you so much. It's not even funny.
Oh,
No, it's we actually I have to say we actually had a great time. The people who showed up while you were away were really cool and very interactive, and so we had like really nice.
yeah, I checked in on some of those older videos, so I was happy to see that you had people and that they were interacting with you.
Yeah, no, that was definitely, it was very awesome. But still, it's still, special to have someone who's on camera with you and keeping you company because
Yeah.
during the lags are murderous. But yeah, so yeah, I'm really glad to have you back. But so tell me, how did your week 4 of Nano go? Because I know you with a new job, it's probably been a bit chaotic. But how did it go so far?
And it was off and on. So part of the reason why I couldn't make the live streams, of course, was because I was so busy with everything else. So then riding on top of that, there was this one week where I think it was maybe week 2. Um, I just did not have the time, like, each day, um, like, maybe I could get 10 minutes in at the end of the night when it was, like, really, really late, but then I had to wake up early, so it was like, "Okay, I gotta go to bed." Um, so I did fairly well. I'm almost on track, but I did actually fall below the goal,
Mm,
so we'll see if I can catch up.
yeah. I have to say this week was a bit of a shit writing week for me, but it's not really. It's not. Uh, how can I put it this way? I was doing so well. I was by the end of week 3, I was at 43,000 words,
Yeah.
and for this entire week, that's exactly where I stayed. So I had a shit week, but it was mainly. It's actually a long story, but like I think my anxiety just really kicked in a big way. And then I just, I watched some TV, and then I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to take a break from writing for a bit, but not, it's not even really a break. What happened was that I started, you remember I mentioned that I started doing the other project,
Yeah.
and counting it as well for the contract work that I'm doing. But then what happened was I burned through that so fast. So by the end of week 3, I basically did like the first third of that entire thing, which is actually kind of impressive if I say so
Wow.
myself. Well
Yeah,
done.
definitely to get through that.
Yeah, but now what happened was I'm kind of getting to the more. The reason why it went so fast was that it, it's basically it's an instruction manual for communications. So that first part was about vision, mission, value statements, value propositions, stuff like that, which is technical, but it's all stuff that I've basically been doing for like 10 years already, because of the fact that I have a commerce degree, like a bachelor's degree in commerce. And then so that stuff I kind of just got through really easily because it's just part of the course for what I used to do anyway. But now I'm getting into the more technical stuff with regards to communicating and how to, use psychology to attract people and stuff like that. So suddenly it was like going full speed into a wall,
Oh,
and
no.
now I have to do research. So I like it. It's interesting, and luckily also I have a little bit of help because I did do industrial psychology when I was doing my degree. So in that aspect, it's at least not completely feeling like I'm out of my depth, but it's still like really, yeah, it's still for me to feel confident that I'm getting the information across correctly. I want to just have the backup of knowing that the book that I want to mainly use as my spine, if I can put it that way. I'm not
Yeah.
plagiarizing or anything, but I'm using one guy's specific method to get it across. So I want to kind of I just want I'm basically rereading his stuff to make sure that I'm getting it across the correct way. And that's kind of where I got stuck, because now I'm reading that instead of writing, where before
Okay.
I did the extra writing as well. But yeah, that's kind of where I got stuck. But yeah, it's just I've been having some really yeah, I don't know, it's just weird stuff, life stuff. In retrospect, I'm a little angry at myself because it's like, actually when I was in it, it's like I can't concentrate on anything, and I'm really regretting it because now that it's solved, it's like you wasted so much time, girl. But yeah, whatever. I think 43 odd thousand words so far isn't too bad, and I might still be able to catch up, but I
That's
probably
really good. Not too bad.
yeah, I know. But the thing is, it was I've been aiming to up my
Yeah,
productivity. So now it's just that like, in a sense, the thing is, even though I wasn't writing, I was kind of doing like um stuff like sitting around and figuring out other stories and just like interacting. Almost it was actually it ended up what my brain kind of got attached to is like fan fiction. So my brain's like,
um,
fan fiction, and then like, no, come back, come back, come back, and I'm like, okay, you know what? Obviously, my brain needs this, so I'm just going to. So I kind of don't feel like even if the stats end up saying that I lost and didn't achieve what I achieved, I still think I did. It's still creativity and it's still my brain going into that kind of story creation mode, which is something that I've been worried about because I haven't created a story in like I want to say 3 years. I'm not sure because years travel
yeah,
so fast at the moment, but I basically finished drafting or rewriting book 3 and then stopped or stopped writing because I focused on editing.
yeah,
So to know that my brain is still kind of still there in that kind of place where it can still create from scratch and well not from scratch, but just create stories. It's
yeah,
nice. So I'm just kind of like indulging it and giving myself a bit of a holiday. So but yeah. By the way, I just want to say welcome to Nova because I saw Nova has shown up. So welcome, welcome.
I
Let's
know,
see if
but
anything else happening. Oh, and I should also say, Nova, I finally got to watch season 3 of Stranger Things. So that was awesome. Oh no, I think Nova disappeared because it's now only me watching. That's cruel. Anyway, so I'll have to tell her when she's back. But yeah, so I also watched some TV, but it's not the Stranger Things fan fiction in case anybody gets excited. A lot, a lot nerdier than that even. So I'm going to leave it. I'm going to just like yeah. Hmm. But anyway, but that's kind of what I've been up to.
yeah. Well, I know what you mean though. Once, like, if you focus in on editing or you have this one story that's taken up so much time, then you start to wonder, can I make a new story? Is there any
Mm.
creative juices left, to create something new? So it's nice when you actually have some inspiration when you're like, hey, yeah, this actually could be a good idea. This is something I could actually write, maybe later because time wise, you can't fit it in. But that's good. Creative juices are still flowing.
Yeah, that's the thing. And for me, it's just what I've been enjoying with that specific thing was, you know, obviously the thing is just that I don't even, actually, it's like, I don't even want to say what this is about. So it's like, but it's just like, uh, just for me, because I'm so goal driven. Actually, I think it has to do with that at this stage. I'm so very goal driven. So when I write, it's to achieve something. It's to publish my book one day. It's to do this. It's to do that. So in a sense, I kind of become my own slave driver. And I think now when I kind of got into this like a bit of a rough spot, like mentally, not to say so it's not anything to worry about, but it's just like I got a little stressed this past week and my brain's like, yeah, let's go do something else. And that was kind of like, but it was just I think my brain was just like, you know what? We're going to do something where you absolutely have no chance whatsoever to ever make anything of this thing ever again, and you're going to enjoy it for a week long. Damn it, So it was kind of that kind of feeling, because it was just like, because I've been thinking, I've spent time on this, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm like, I wish I could actually figure out how to make a thing of it that isn't obviously derivative, because I don't do the whole let's write the fan fiction and then change some characters' names and you know publish it and make it my own. It's like, no, darling. No, this would have to be, but the thing is, this is a very specific kind of thing, and why it's one in a kind of thing. And I really don't know how I would change it into something that is actually my own without changing the very important aspect of what made it that thing that I love in the first place. And then still have it be a unique thing. And I'm like, this sucks. So I'm like,
Yeah.
Terrible. So, but today, what are you going to work on today? Still with the face story.
Yes, still with that story. I've been sticking through that throughout the month, so this will just add towards my time that I'm supposed to be catching up on. So yes, that's the goal.
Sorry, I just want to say hi to Shannon. She's also here, and I see someone else is watching. So Nova, is that you? Because I had something that I told you, and then you disappeared. So if it's you, just let me know so that I can tell you again. But so anyway, but it's I'm really excited about the story. So I'm like, I'm so glad to hear that you're working on it again. That's awesome. No, last week I was very boring because I just kept on working on my work project. I think today might actually be a book 3 kind of day. So but,
When you share snippets.
yes. No, it's really because I actually missed sharing snippets, because I can't share snippets to the contract work that I'm doing, because it actually does belong to the people I write it for.
Right.
So, but it's still, I'm actually I'm kind of excited about that, because I might actually get a job about that job thing. So like a more full-time or another part-time thing, but that pays well. So hopefully it works out. But we'll see.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm not putting my heart on anything yet, but it could be cool. Because it might mean I have to change countries. So that's an adventure.
Really? Wow, that would be interesting.
Yeah. So but I'll have to see. It all depends. So we'll have to see how it works out.
Yeah.
Sorry, if I'm rambling, it's again that whole thing about the multitasking, because now I have to go like find file, click, because I'm terrible. No, so by the way, guys, I just want to apologize for being late. We have visitors, and we had lunch, and then lunch kind of just became talking, and then my grand's like, by the way, it's 5 p.m. I'm like, it's 5 p.m. Running up here, and I'm like, yeah, okay, it's fine. I can do this within like 5 minutes. I can get this thing up and running, and my computer's like, no, you can't, darling. I'm going to take 20 minutes to turn on. So good on you, I'm like, no. It was horrible. And I'm like, no, come on. And I'm like, no, but I have a second computer. And then I open the computer and it has no antivirus on. So I just had a very, very bad moment with my technology today. And I blame myself. So I'm really sorry I'm late. That was not intentional. But I did my best to get back on time. It just did not work out. Okay, so Nova says, I'm still here. I'm doing like 12 things at once. Well, I'm trying to do 12 things at once, but just it's not working out well for me. I'm not very good at multitasking. So, Nova, what I wanted to say is I finally watched Stranger Things 3. And I Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but I cried ugly tears. I cried like a baby. But anyway, so just so you know, because in case you wanted to share feels, because that was horrible. I was so angry. But anyway, so okay, I'm going to stop fangirling now. So yeah, but that's kind of where I am at the moment. I have tried to open my document, but now of course it's again going to kick my ass because I didn't open it beforehand, so it's going to take me like 20 minutes. But we'll try to talk and to open documents at the same time. Hopefully
Yeah.
that.
Fill up the time between with I don't know. So you are working on book 3? Is that your plan?
For tonight, yes. But I
Okay.
think also if my documents aren't open yet, I have like a blog post that I was supposed to write yesterday, but I kind of just forgot. So I feel I've been all over the place because basically what happened was because this last week kind of just went like crazy for me. I just forgot that it was the last full week in the month, and I have like a blog hop thing that I actually host, and that's even worse, right? You forget your own blog hop. Anyway, so then I'm like, I happen to look at the calendar and I'm like, wait a minute, there can't be another week in this thing. Yesterday, like at 12 midnight, and I'm like, what? And then, yeah, so yeah, so I still write that as well, but I don't know what to write yet, but I'll have to figure it out. So I'll probably write that blog post and then do some editing on my
Yeah,
book. Yeah,
sounds good.
yeah. So but it's actually, I just realized it was actually kind of awkward because I kind of approach this thing as having, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. And now it's like, well, there's almost half a week left of NaNoWriMo that I didn't keep track of. So I have no idea what I'm going to call next Saturday. But,
Oh yeah. I don't know, because July ends on like, is that Tuesday or something?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, I've got. No, I swear, something is out to get me today. I have something in my eye now. No! But yeah, so I'm all over the place. I'm so sorry, guys. It's literally because I came in frazzled. Usually, when you guys see me going live, I've actually been at setting everything up like for and a half an hour before. So this is like I should maybe have considered just taking a breath and just going for a full half an hour since where I sat down to starting. But then I was in a hurry because I'm so late. So I'm kind of I'm like doing the white rabbit thing. I'm late. I'm so late. I'm so late. Crazy.
Well, you're not late anymore. You're fine now. So just
I need it.
yeah. For 10 minutes of the video, we will be doing breathing exercises.
Maybe go get your yoga mats and we shall do some meditation and yoga and or something.
And then we'll be focused so we can work on everything else.
Yes. Maybe that would work. If we did that, we'd get like people coming to join us for rightly yoga. It's like, that might work.
It probably is a thing, to be honest.
And if it isn't, it should be. Yeah. So yeah, okay, so we should I'm yeah, my brain is like all over the place. So if you have anything you have a suggestion to say, please do share. Because my brain is like, yeah, no. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, okay, so perhaps we can brainstorm ideas for next week. I mean, after NaNoWriMo ends, is there anything that the people in the chat want to hear, or do we want to talk about more editing, perhaps, or something that whatever happens after Camp Nano and NaNoWriMo kind of events, maybe?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. We can talk a bit about what we're going to be doing.
Yeah,
and then
the recovery.
yes. I don't. I. Oh my word. Sorry. I was going to our Trello thing because to see what other guys have suggested and to make notes if someone in the chat does suggest anything that they want us to talk about. So I went to my Trello, and of course now I have like a million things marked as you had to do this yesterday already. So I'm like, fantastic. Luckily it's nothing important, but my brain is just like, what do you mean there are all those red labels now? Why? Why are you doing this to me? Ah, terrible. Okay, let's see. So, we have some fun subjects in here to start with. So let me work through this. Someone said, oh, it's actually, I think it's you, Megan. You said how to start a writing group or to find one. So
Did I say that?
yeah,
I don't know. It must have been so long ago if I did.
Yeah, I think it's May 31st already because it was before you moved. Because he also left a comment saying, since I just moved to a new area, this is going to be key for me. I'm searching on Meetup for now and going to try out a few. Hopefully that will work.
Yes, that is true. Okay, I did actually write that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting, but I have to say I'm probably not going to be a very helpful person with that because I belong to the grand total of one writing group, and that is the one that you belong to as well. So I'm going to be terrible at that one. But
that's okay. Yeah, I'm mainly figuring it out. I mean, there's different ways that you can connect with people, like Meetup in particular, especially just if you look city-wise, then you can see what are all the different groups in this area. So
yeah,
kind of trying that out first and going from there.
cool. Well, then, if we do talk about this, I'm going to say, well, over to you, Megan. You can take it over.
Okay.
Share your top 10 of tips for finding a good group or something like that.
All right. Sounds good.
Sharing your experiences with the team. Hi, Michael. I see you just got the notice now, but I'm glad that you did get the notice, and I'm really glad to see you here. Welcome, welcome. So, we're basically just currently talking about what we will be doing for the next few weeks after Camp Nano. So, if you have any subjects that you would like to suggest for future write-ins, you're more than welcome. Anyone who is watching is welcome. They can just leave a comment in the chat, and I'll make note of it. So just so that you know where we are at the moment. While you were away, that last time on writing chat. So the other thing, some of the other suggestions we had was marketing / social media, which is something that I would be quite interested in talking about because it's actually something that has to do with my own stuff that's going on, which is something I was supposed to work on this month, and I'm like, how much did I do? Very little, because I just got so sucked in everything else I was doing. But next week.
I wouldn't mind talking about that either, just because, well, I would like to learn what other people do for that, and I need to work on it as well.
Yeah, I think most writers don't write books because they want to market them. So I think that would be like an interesting subject. So I think maybe we should say that for next week. Maybe.
Yeah. Put that at the top of the list, I guess. This is a good possibility.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, so I put that up. Yeah, the other one is pen names, growing YouTube channels, and then wish fulfillment writing, and then with regard to opinions on wish fulfillment writing, and have you ever done it, etc. To which the answer is yes. That is exactly what I have been doing all week long. So yeah. Anyway, and then character inspiration, broad or specific, and branding / rebranding, which I think we should maybe put along with the marketing.
Yeah.
Because
I
it's
would
kind of
definitely do that.
yeah. And then building momentum, which I think was actually me that made that suggestion. We talked about that rather exhaustively, so maybe we should do that a bit later. But
Okay.
all right, so that's what we have written on the list at the moment. So if there's anything else anyone has thought about that you didn't hear me mention, then you're more than welcome to just let me know and I'll add it in. Oh, Shannon says marketing is what I'm working on today. Cool. That's always a good thing. I think the first thing that a writer needs to do these days is to write a book. The second thing a writer needs to do these days is to market it. So it's kind of like, yeah, I think it's always an important thing. It's not something that goes away. And
Yeah.
and I say this being a very terrible example of this because I actually, if I can avoid it, I actually do. And it's bad because you think being the person that I'm getting paid literally to market stuff for people, and I'm not doing it for myself. So it's like, wake up. So yeah, but, oh well, I'll sort that out. It's everything. The thing is, it's that we've talked about this before, Maggie, but we that whole slow and steady wins the race kind of thing, where we're just like everything will get done in its time. So it's just for me to sit down and focus on getting it finished. But it will probably be helpful if I actually finish this communications toolkit, because that actually will put my brain into this whole communications thing for me to sort out my branding and everything else that needs to be done. The irritating thing with my branding, for example, is just that I actually know exactly what I want to do, but to sit down and actually just create the stuff that needs to be created, my brain's just like, not today. One day I shall tackle my marketing. But today is not that day. So it's just like that's kind of where
Yeah.
I'm. Yeah.
I think I just started Instagram about maybe a month ago now, and working on posts for that takes so much time.
Yeah. That's I think the biggest thing for me at the moment is that um it's actually I think, and that's probably where this whole fan fiction and just doing something without feeling guilty, although I'm already feeling guilty, so that's terrible. But like, just doing something for the fun of it is actually really doing my brain a world of good, because what's happening at the moment is like I realize, okay, no, I should be working out my communication stuff. And then it's like, well, but you should also be writing book 3. You only have like a few thousand people waiting for it. I'm like, that kind of feeling. So,
Yeah.
and then when I'm writing or editing, I'm like, you do realize that you're never going to get more readers if you're not working on your communications. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like, it's like a catch-22 of, okay, to keep readers, you need to finish the books, actually write the books. But to get the readers, you need to actually write the posts and the social media marketing to then funnel them back into the readers. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, for me, it's and also what happened was, and that's probably also why, if I can go off on a tangent briefly, where talking about marketing is probably a good idea, because boy, do we do it wrong. It's actually something that I never really thought about it, because I started blogging like in 2010 and building up my network. And at the moment, as it stood by 2013, the last time I really started adding up everything, I had like a following of over 10,000 people, which I think for an unknown writer was actually pretty damn good. But it actually didn't end up being worth much in terms of book sales, because it was awesome for like having contacts in the industry. It was not awesome for having people actually interested in buying your book. So, and I think that's something that people really, really don't always keep in mind when they're doing their social networking, especially. And I know I didn't. So, what I'm having to do actually, and that's what's taking so long at the moment, is that I actually have to actively undo a lot of stuff that I did for almost a decade now, um, before I can actually do it again properly, because otherwise I'm just going to get the same results. So it's a bit of a mess, but yeah. The worst of it being Twitter. My Twitter account is so screwed up at the moment. So I'm literally having to strategically unfollow everyone and putting them into lists so that I can refollow the people I want to follow, and then just start from scratch because I don't want to lose my Twitter handle. So it's just, no, it makes me a little bit ickier just talking about it. So, but
We can, if we talk about it, then part of the write-in can also be actively fixing it while we're talking about it or something, making the changes.
yeah, that's true. Because I think doing like yeah, we can do, that's a new thing. We can totally do this. The Saturday marketing in thing. Because
Yeah.
then we can say like we sprint for like a total of 1 hour for writing sprints, but we have to do a half an hour of marketing stuff every day, every Saturday.
Yeah.
One, even if you finish one thing, you have to do it. That could actually be a thing. You see, you are an inspiration, Maggie.
Thanks.
Yeah. So just to quickly read through some of the comments now. Shannon said, I actually kind of enjoy marketing, but wish it didn't take so much of my writing time. And um, on the subject of just like attracting the wrong people, she said, I thought the same thing. Why are people marketing to other writers instead of readers? I know writers are readers, but it seems like they only focus on connecting with other writers. Yeah, exactly. That was the mistake I actually made. Because I kind of went through from the thing of, well, I can easily attract writers because we kind of have the same ballpark, at least, of a wavelength with regards to what we're interested in and all that kind of thing. So it's kind of like the low hanging fruit. But the problem with that is that, I've discovered from my own experience, having been in this writing game now, well, let me put it this way, from 2010 was the first time I finished the first book, my first book, and I've been editing and publishing and going through the whole thing. So for about a decade now, or just less than a decade, I have been actively writing and active in the publishing industry. And since then, I've actually discovered that my writing, the amount of reading I do has taken a severe knock. Like, I think if you're serious about writing and you are still doing like another job, for example, whatever, even if you're just sitting at a desk somewhere doing something, um, that means you have very limited time and you can either spend it writing or you can spend it reading. And if you have a choice between writing and reading and you're really serious about writing, you're going to choose writing every time. And I hadn't really thought about that at that stage when I started appealing to other writers, because I was still at that stage when I started blogging. I'd taken the writing part seriously, but I hadn't at that stage really figured out what it's going to entail. So I was still an avid reader and still, focusing on both in a sense, but not really focusing on reading, but reading a lot while writing. And then it kind of just like gradually, as my time got less and less and less, I just realized that, oh boy, I made a big mistake. But I think people do it because it's such an easy, it makes sense in the brain until you kind of realize that, oh no, actually it makes no sense whatsoever. So, but I don't regret the contacts I made, but just in terms of actual marketing, spending time on social media, appealing to other writers is probably not the best idea unless you're going to sell a writing book. In that case, then absolutely that is your target market. Go for it. But yeah. Anyway, I'm talking too much about marketing. Sorry. We said we're going to do this next week, but now I'm like, Marketing. My brain is all about it now. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I'm still opening it now. I'm on my second document and it's still not open. So. But maybe, like in a few minutes, we can start sprinting and I'll write my blog. Like, I will write my blog post. There we go. Why does my brain do this to me when I'm live? I don't know. But yeah. So anyway.
I think it's just we're more self-conscious when we're like, oh, we're live. There are people watching.
Yes. Not that I'm going to say, stop watching me. But yeah, I think it is that like thing that maybe I always make these kinds of mistakes, but I'm just more aware of them while I'm realizing that this is going to be recorded and it will be recorded forever and ever.
Internet exists.
Yes. So, fun. But I have to say a lot of it maybe I'm really glad that I started doing. Okay, so now I have to say this because I just talked about the whole appealing to writers versus appealing to readers thing, and why I am still, so this is actually the writing. Why am I attracting more writers to my channel? I'm actually my branding is going to be about both, because I am actually one day going to release a book about writing. So it is actually, there is a strategy, there is a method, but I'm not going to hard sell. So I want to attract people, but it's just a long story, but I am actually following my own advice with regards to this, in case anyone at all ever wondered why it's like, so you're talking about not attracting writers to your social network, and here you are talking about it during a write-in. So, anyway, so that's the explanation. I am actually doing this for a reason, but my nefarious reasons, my cunning plan will come to fruition probably like 10 years from now at this rate. But one day.
Yes, and it all started here.
It's a core group of 5 people.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway.
Notes, so my own plan will come to fruition eventually.
Yeah, I think it's just it's a very marketing is weird. So you kind of it's just, but it is so easy, I think, to get stuck on like stuff like, ooh, big numbers. Just get big numbers. What's the easiest way to get big numbers? You get other writers. And it's just like, no, darling, that's not going to help you at all.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, hopefully at one stage it will all come to fruition for all of us involved here in this writing chat. But for now, we're just talking nonsense, going off on weird random tangents with frightening regularity that people start doubting that I'm able to keep a train of thought.
Yeah. Maybe some of our Discord group members will be able to join in the next few months or something, so they can input their ideas on some of these topics. I miss everybody.
Yeah, I really miss him, but I think Jim did say it's going to start settling down for him because he had to do with the moon landing, the first moon landings. So now that's over. So he didn't have anything to do with the original first moon landing, but he had to do something around the anniversary of the first moon landing. There we go. There we go. Eventually, this is going to get through. I will get my point across. No, but yeah. So he had something to do with that, but now that it's over, he should hopefully start being a bit more available. He mentioned. So we'll see. And I'm not sure about Flit because I think it depends on her schedule, because she also had a new job, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, that's true.
I keep missing AJ though, so hopefully she also gets into it, but she hasn't yet. I'll have to ask her. But yeah, she's the newest, one of our newer members. So maybe she doesn't know she's available. She's actually allowed to be on live. So I'll check.
Maybe we'll just have to actually say that.
Yeah, and that's just what I was thinking. I'm like, does she even know? Very possibly not. So I'll have to check. Right, so, oh my goodness, sorry, this document is still not open. Oh, there, just as I said it, it's open. Okay, so 2 out of 5 documents have been opened so far. So I think I'm going to start with a, sorry, that's my antivirus telling me that my license is going to expire 2 weeks from now. Anyway. Yeah, so maybe we should just start with with the actual sprinting, and then I'll get going on my blog post, and hopefully not all you guys should hear. But that's basically what I'm going to do for now until my actual project decides one day to grace my computer with its presence. So yeah. All right. So shall we do like a 10-minute?
Yeah, let's start with 10 minutes.
Cool. All right. I'm going to count down, and then we'll talk again. All right. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. And time, how did you do? And how did you guys do? Let me know in the chat. Let me just figure out a way for me to figure out to let you guys know how much I did. That's why I wrote this in my blogging.
Let's see. I did 280 words.
Nice.
So adding on a little bit of warming up, I had to figure out some ideas, this conversation that just got started. I was like, I don't know if I necessarily know what they're going to talk about or how they're going to discuss some sensitive issues.
Cool. Yeah, so you needed to work that out first.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just a little under you. I got 271 words.
That's good too.
Yeah, I think for the first time that I've actually been actively writing, like in almost a week, I don't think that's actually really that bad. Now I just need to open another file that I completely forgot that I needed to open. Because I suck. Let me see. Okay, so let me see what the comments say. Michael did 198 words. Nicely done. Well done. Awesome. So yeah, we're doing well. I'm impressed. The worst thing about my computer is that, or not, it's not really my computer, it's the way I work, is that I have folders within folders within folders within folders. So if I forget to open something before I need it, for example, when I'm live, it does have this very nasty tendency to actually mean that I take like 5 minutes to find what I'm looking for. Ah, gosh. All right. It's just, and in case you're wondering what this is that I'm going after with such desperation, I have a thing that I created that counts my words for me if I keep them open. So there we go. I'm getting better. There we go. All right, awesome. Yippee. Okay, now now I'm back to full attention on what I'm doing. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm bad. Okay. All right, shall we jump into another writing sprint?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So let's do 15 minutes.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, cool. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. And time, how did you do?
Pretty well, I think. Let's see. Part of the thing is, for some reason, I always forget where I left off before once I start writing. So then I'm like, where do I go up to count? So I think if I'm not overlapping, I did about 430 words, but we'll see. That's an estimate.
Nice, even so. I did the great grand sum total of 90 words. Wah, wah, wah.
I'm sure you had some busy stuff to do.
Yeah, basically what happened was I was writing the blog post still, and then I basically finished, so I had to get it up and posted and put the
Okay.
link there and stuff like that. So basically that's what I got to do.
Yeah. It happens. You're like, you start doing something and then it's the actual uploading it or something that takes a lot of time. You never realize like how long until, you do something that's actually timed and you go, wow, where did the time go?
No, absolutely. But yeah, I just realized, and as I started with the writing sprint, I'm like, oh no, I never asked for an excerpt. So, darling, do you have an excerpt?
Uh, yes, let's see. Um, I'm kind of going to go back a little bit and not where I'm currently writing because I think it'll be a little bit too confusing to go over that since it's a lot of conversation about topics in the world instead of just something that people can grasp like immediately, no matter whether they've read it or not.
Yeah,
So,
no, absolutely. Makes sense.
um, do you have anything that you want to share right now?
Well, at the moment, I can share it, but I think it's going to be really boring because it was my blog post, and what the blog post was about is sharing what I did for the past month. So I think you know all of it because I just shared
All
everything.
right, that's fair. Okay, just give me 1 minute to find. Um, oh gosh.
That's fine, don't worry, no stress. I was like, come on, Megan. Come on, Megan. Megan.
No stress at all. Okay, okay.
No.
All right, I'm going to, let's see. All right, I'm going to start at this part where, so my main character has basically, she had to leave sort of her home or familiar environment, and she kind of was wandering through the forest for a while, just not knowing where she was going. And then she met up actually with some her friend's family. So she um, was looking for them initially, and then she actually met up with them. So that's where we're at now. Is that they're just life's been going all right so far. So she's had some happiness, which is good because right before this there was this major like um, dip and very depressing kind of scenes. So this is more, yeah, a little bit happier, and then it takes a turn. So I'll start. It's a roller coaster. Okay. The Archduke's forest took the better part of a day to get around. The imps took no chances and moved with care, sandwiching things between blankets and keeping their donkey calm. While the forest was meant to be a refuge for any fairy, the Archduke had a temper since the day an imp charmed his only daughter and nearly ran away with her. The tree line ended at a wide dust road. It stretched down into a miniature valley which held the town. Smoke floated in puffs from a few chimneys, and a market was winding down for the day when Kira and the imps reached it. "We'll stay the night, then," Navarre said, directing them to an empty field on the outskirts. They made camp for the night with quiet merriment. While High Fae and Lesser Fae lived in the town, it was best not to attract any attention. Kira was charged with looking after some of the youngsters liable to wander off. She chased the little blue imps all around until they were plumb tuckered out, then helped Avara prepare the meal, chopping and stewing vegetables for a fragrant soup. The night fell easily, and they all rested with plans for Kira to go into town with Navarre in the morning. She dreamed of having her wings. Flying was something she never let herself fantasize about during her waking hours, but she couldn't control her mind in her dreams. More than anything, she wanted to taste the wind and feel it pulling against her. Her memories of the ashwood and the pathless grounds colored her rapid pace across the skies. Also, I just realized, spoiler, so I'm trying to decide if I should continue on from this little part or not.
Yeah, I was like, I wonder.
It's like, oh no, I'm about to reveal something that happened, what caused the very depressing part earlier on. So now I'm not sure if I should. I mean, okay, granted, I don't know when this will get published or even out there, so maybe by that time you'll all have forgotten the spoiler that I dropped if I drop it now. So, I don't know. Give me your opinion. Would you like to hear a little bit more, or are you good?
A little bit more. I can't wait. I'm not going to wait for years and years and years.
All right. I'll share it. Okay, so she's having this dream about flying. So a much pleasanter dream than Saf taking her wings, but it filled her with an aching longing as she flew a mere. Yeah. So there's your spoiler. Her wings were cut, and it was terrible. I felt terrible for her. Of course, I was the one who caused it, but yeah. Anyway, so there's your spoiler. That terrible thing happened to her. So, as she flew, a mysterious and soft voice wended its way into her ears. Kira woke from her sleep to singing. Not only that, but she recognized it. The exact same singing she'd heard on the night the king was almost assassinated. Her heart raced and she shook Scout, who slept beside her. The little imp turned over in his sleep, but didn't stir. Scout, she said, but he wouldn't wake. Next, she tried Avara, but with the same result. She searched the whole camp, but none of the imps would wake. Her heart raced and pulse pounded as she turned on her heels, scanning around them. The field was open and flat. She would have, so something felt wrong, and that song, she knew what that song meant, and she wasn't going to let anything happen again. She grabbed her chopping knife and walked in a slow circle around the camp. Nothing moved about, but the singing moved to the forest. It sounded distant, but what was it after this time? Who would the singer be killing? All right, I'll stop there. So, yeah. Woken again from sleep to this mysterious voice and something out there in the woods.
Oh dear. Oh my goodness.
But yeah, so excerpt.
The asshole.
Yeah.
Terrible. Oh no. Okay. Yes, you very much made an impact. I hope you feel better.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, I'm still looking forward to finding out how it goes, and I really hope she kicks his backside. Seriously, she has to kick his backside.
Yeah. She's gonna go on a long journey, I think, before she actually comes up against him again.
Yeah,
So,
I hope he gets trained in something like Krav Maga or something,
yeah,
and
then she'll take him down and,
and
you know
oh, make him lose some teeth, something.
yeah. Oh gosh, it's such an emotional scene. So, since I fell behind on my timing for working on the story, I actually decided that um, I would work on editing a little bit. So I spent a lot of time just reading back over and kind of editing a little bit, just because it was easier to do that than to try to work on generating the new more of the story.
Mm.
So when I was reading through that part again, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so emotional."
Oh, yeah.
I felt
So
so bad for her.
yeah, it's always I always laugh because well, it's not really funny, but like people have this way of thinking that like we just love killing and hurting and maiming characters, and it's like, no, darling, we cry much, much harder than you ever did.
Yeah, it's like when you actually think about it, I'm like, "This is terrible," and then I'm like, "Is there any way that she can not go through this?" But, of course, this is, like,
Ooh.
one of her turning points and everything, so she needs to go through this. As terrible as it is, this is, like, necessary, which is
Mm,
it's like, there's no other way around it. That has to happen.
yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. It's like a, yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but you're right. It has to happen, otherwise there's no real actual point to having the story because she needs to recover and grow from something. So,
Yeah.
hmm.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
All right. So, okay. So, 15 minutes again.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. And time, how did you do?
Let's see. I think 300 words, maybe.
Nice. Well done.
Thanks. It's getting there. There's this more. I'm finding like as I progress as a writer, the more terrible things happen to my characters. So it's like, okay, something good happens, and then all of a sudden, oh, goes downhill again. Which I think is probably just better writing anyway, because when you have nothing happening, nothing bad happening, then it's just kind of like, okay, what's the point, or what's going on here that there's nothing happening, or how can things go so well? So yeah, so it's probably better that they're in the forest trying to get somewhere, and then all of a sudden they get attacked. It's like, oh, I did kind of hint that there were some dangerous creatures out in the forest earlier, so it turns out that they actually had to run into them.
Ah, good. You never hint that there's a complication going to happen, and then you don't let it happen.
Yeah. I know, it's like, let me warn you about the dark and scary things that are in this forest, but you shall pass through unscathed and not even face any of it. That just doesn't happen.
Nope.
But how did you go? Yeah.
Sorry, say again?
Oh, how was your writing?
Terrible.
Oh no.
My computer, I think I'm going to retire this computer. It is. I'm this far from just tossing it out the window because I fixed it a few months ago, or not even a few months ago, a few weeks ago, and now it's back to doing that same thing of freezing and stuttering or whatever. And I can't edit if I can't. My word keeps freezing for no reason.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, really annoying. But yeah.
That's too bad.
You want to share an excerpt?
Sure. Let me go back into some area. Maybe I'll pick up where I left off with that, with the singer. Let's see. Okay, so we ended last time with who would the singer be killing? So I'm gonna pick up from there.
Okay.
The only fairy of importance within a mile of the town was the Archduke. Surely no one else was about. Indecision overcame her as she wavered between following the sound and staying. She couldn't leave the imps defenseless, but who would fall victim to the singer if she didn't go? Could she allow herself to let it go? You're no hero. Frax's words raced through her and her face heated. She might not be a hero, but she wasn't a coward. For the final check around the camp, she ran into the woods. The singer seemed to play with her. Their voice echoed and glided through the trees in so many directions that at first she lost her way. She listened intently, getting her bearings as she assessed what was around her. The knife in her hand appeared childish and powerless, but she continued on. Her body loosened as she ran, and she felt calmer than she had been all day. This felt right, and she didn't let herself doubt as she kept her footsteps soft. She called upon the training from Vorin, a glamour naturally surrounding her as she followed the singer deeper into the woods. Would she be in time? Everything depended on her moving quickly and quietly. She just hoped she was enough. The Archduke's estate loomed before her. At least she thought it was his. No other residence could possibly be this large and grand. Many tall windows looked out on the forest, reflecting its stillness and its pains. Cut stones formed the low wall separating the estate from the rest of the environment, and the same stones laid the foundation of the building. The singer hurried their pace, and Kira saw a shape dart out, avoiding the lanterns hung at intervals around the place. Kira hesitated. Should she sound the alarm? Would anyone be awake to hear her? These questions clanged inside her along with an insidious one. Why did it appear that she was the only one awake? If the guards were around, either they'd fallen under the spell or did not sense that something was wrong. She would have to go on. There's no time to search for anyone but the intended victim. Following the singer's path, she avoided the light and kept herself shrouded in the darkness. The singer's voice rose above her, and she craned her neck to see something clinging to the ledge of a window. The shape deftly lifted itself onto the ledge, and after a moment, where Kira heard an audible click, disappeared inside. If she had her wings, she would have flown to the level. As things were currently, Kira gritted her teeth, sliding the knife into her pocket as she started to climb. Her fingers wedged between the stones as she tried to find spots to cling to. The singer had a head start, and she needed to hurry. Her arms trembled as she approached the ledge, and she had to blindly reach for it. Heights had never troubled her, but flying and climbing were two different things. Her breath came in audible gasps, and she strove to calm herself. If she gave away her presence, the singer might disappear, and she wanted to catch them this time. She hauled herself onto the ledge, groaning softly as she maneuvered herself inside. She was lucky that she was thin enough to fit through the window. No lights gleamed in the room, and a door across from her stood ajar. The singer must have gone on. The floor creaked as she took a step, and she froze. Singing did not stop, and with a sigh, she leapt across the floor, crouching in the doorway. The everlights in the hall were off, but she needed the cover the darkness provided. Plush rugs ran the length of the hallway, and a heavy, ornate mirror hung on the wall at the end. Kira approached it cautiously, keeping an ear out for any movement. Nothing stirred as she took the marble staircase, 2 steps at a time in her rush. The singing squeezed its way through the hallways, and Kira entered a wing of elegantly gilded double doors. No lamps lit the path, and she relied on the shine and shape of things to keep her aware of her surroundings. Another plush rug ran the length of this hall and muffled her footsteps. She felt close. Sorry. Making a little adjustment. A slight breeze blew in from a room to her left, and she noticed that the door was cracked. The singer's voice emanated from that room, and every muscle in her body tensed. She drew the knife. Her fingers curled around its handle as she sucked in a breath. This didn't appear to be the Archduke's rooms. More than likely a guest slept here. A noble such as the Archduke would have a more gaudy entrance with grander fixtures. She pressed her fingertips to the door, slowly easing it open. Luckily, the well-oiled hinges didn't squeak. Moonlight cut across the room like a spear, darting through a window and landing at the foot of an imposing four-poster bed. The dark curtains were open around the bed, and Kara could see the singer standing at the side. She could make out the stringy long hair and wraith-like arms which held the same eerie blade, the obsidian metal which did not shine, and the jagged hooks on its edges. In comparison, Kira's knife was a useless thing, but she hurled it with all her strength at the figure which she believed was the same creature from the king's room. The knife met its mark, sinking into the unearthly flesh of the thing, and it hissed. The piercing blare sizzled against Kira's skin. Though the sheer volume of its stringy hair hid its face, it stalked toward her, tossing the knife aside. Kira grabbed the edge of the door to run. However, the thing sang a new song, and this time, Kira could hear words along with the eldritch music. Some fairy ruined my task, it sniffed the air. Some fairies here to witness all. It swiftly crossed the floor, lifting its knife. Some fairy's death will happen soon. And that's where I'm going to cut it off. So, where will it go from here? Actually, I mean, it's already written past that point, but, you know, we'll leave you on a cliffhanger. So, yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting part to be at, to be like transitioning between all these different like challenges, I guess. She keeps facing all these challenges where it's like, okay, why is she the one awake? What is she going to do? Can she actually do anything? Because she's not actually prepared. No one's actually trained her really to do anything that's sort of attacking another opponent. It's more like she's learned a little bit about defense, but very, very minimal. And she hasn't really practiced it against anyone. So, yeah. It's kind of like, when you put a character in that situation, it's kind of hopeless, which is kind of, yeah, interesting. But okay. I think your microphone is off.
Yeah, it was off. Sorry, I don't know why I muted myself. 2 thumbs up for intelligence. So no, yeah. So yeah, it has to be like um yeah, it's very you're doing really well on the tension, because the moment that you don't know whether or not the character is going to make it, because we know that the character has very little training.
Right.
Really tense. So it's really cool.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, how does she get out of this? It's like I throw her into a situation, and then I'm like, oh great, I didn't prepare her enough to actually do it herself, so something else has got to happen.
Yeah. Fun. I can't wait to find out how this happens.
Yeah, and then my favorite part is the end of that chapter. It ends on this reveal, um, who the victim is. And it's like this character that we met earlier, but we haven't seen them for a while. So all of a sudden we're like, wait a second, you know, why is this person here? You know, why is this and everything? And I didn't even realize who the victim was going to be until like until I wrote that moment where Kira kind of stepped up to the bed and she looked down and she was like, wait a second, I know who this is.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like, whoa, I know who this is too. What is this person doing here? And so then I had to figure out what this person was actually uh, doing here and everything. So that's kind of interesting too.
That's cool. That's the best. Like if it surprises you. I love it. I love it. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I want to get to the end of the chapter
Awesome.
with you now. All right. So I think
All right, we'll pick up there next.
yeah, cool. Now for my excerpt, I also went back a little bit because I didn't really get far with the edit, so I went for the best place to start with what I did for like that what has been edited already. And also because this is kind of an important moment that kind of opens into the rest of the book. So I feel like if I'm going to share excerpts later, it's kind of important that you know what's going on here, because this is kind of like an important moment. So yeah. All right. All right. Helen dropped into her seat and rubbed her aching temples. Today would suck. Big time. 7 straight nights of the entity keeping her awake. 7 days of after-school training. Now with Noreen still on her case and no support whatsoever from Darian. Why did she even expect him to stand by her? It made it more than clear that he had no interest in acting like a friend. So obviously he wouldn't want to put himself out there for her. She couldn't expect it of him. She didn't. Well, she had, but she wouldn't make the same mistake again. Why she kept doing it went beyond her understanding. He'd said it in so many words that he didn't want to be her friend. He didn't care. He didn't. But for some reason, part of her refused to believe it. It kept pointing back to when he tried to convince her to leave Karen, to the night on Outer Karen when he had revealed the kindness he was capable of, to the way he'd shielded her during her dream in Lurian. None of it mattered. Not one thing. Why did she even want it to matter? Claire sat down on her other side, resting her hand on Callan's shoulder and pulling her from her thoughts. You need to sleep, see. I can't, she moaned. It was childish to complain about it, how putting it into words just made her feel worse. I'm so tired I could throw up, but I can't sleep. If she did, who knew what Auric would make her do? Claire put her arms around Callan and held her close. The tenderness of the gesture was enough to make Callan want to cry. Instead, she rested her head on Claire's shoulder and closed her eyes. Bad idea. Her lids felt like lead. Almost immediately, sleep started to drag her under. Almost immediately, the entity stirred awake. Callan jerked her head up with a gasp. Her insides shuddered. This was torture. Auric was torturing her. Maybe he planned to make her go back by depriving her of sleep. She felt Darian's gaze resting on her. His eyes seemed darker somehow. What? She demanded softly. His mouth tensed at the corners. Are you angry at me now? Do you even care? He glared off to the side. The muscle in his jaw ticked. That was an answer too. I'm angry. I'm tired. I'm irritable. Specifically at you? Possibly. She shrugged when he swung his head back around. Hey, you asked. Darian leaned in so she could hear him whisper. If this is about training. Damn the fluttering in her stomach. It's not, he sighed, squinting at her as if trying to unravel the snarling mess that was her brain. She never noticed how thick and dark his lashes were before. And damn her exhaustion too. And Auric and Darian for being so damned attractive and unaffected at the same time. Is there a rational reason for your fury, or is it just because I'm alive? Yep, the last one. He burst out laughing, startling the rest of the class into silence. And God, it changed him. It changed her. The way his face lit with mirth, the way his eyes shone, the curve of his mouth. Something inside her, her anger at him, melted away like frost in sunlight. And suddenly, for no reason at all, she wanted to smile too. As much as she didn't want to be drawn in, she couldn't help at least grudging a smile as she realized how stupid her exhaustion was making her. She rolled her eyes at herself. Sorry, you're right. I'm too tired to think straight. It was the wrong thing to say. Darian's expression sobered. Gawain will find a solution. Callan shook her head and faced forward again. Nothing else she'd ever tried worked. Even if Gawain found something that could help, there was no guarantee that it would. She couldn't hope on something again. It always made the disappointment more crushing. The new secretary walked in with a small bag in her hand. Their weekly mail. The students in the front rows took the letters and handed back the bag before passing out the letters. Callan glanced at James and Ward. Neither of them had gotten letters last week. She hadn't either, but then she hadn't expected any. Did they? Wouldn't James want a letter from his parents at least? Or would they be so cold toward him that he'd given up on them? Both the boys startled when two envelopes landed on their desks. So no, they obviously didn't expect mail. But then, where did those two letters come from? Claire tore into the letter at the top of her stack and started reading. Her expression remained unchanged, but something about the way she still felt wrong. Are you okay? Callan put her hand on Claire's. The redhead didn't even seem to notice. Her fingers were icy. Claire? Her gaze finally found Callan's, allowing her to see the horror in Claire's sky blue eyes. I, I've been summoned home. She tried to make the words sound normal, but her hand trembled in Callan's. Not for long, I hope. Just a couple of days. Callan nodded, trying to figure out what to say, how to ask. But Claire's hold constricted around Callan's hand. Come with me. No, Darian answered for her. Hey, Callan turned on him. You don't get to make that decision. He lifted an eyebrow, effectively questioning that opinion. Your training is your priority. Claire's fingers twitched. So come with us. You can train her there. Callan glanced at her, saw the eagerness in her expression, the near terror she tried to hide. Claire needed her along for whatever this was. Darian frowned at them. I don't like it. Ugh, come on, Darian. Don't be a stick in the mud, Claire said. It'll be fun. You'll have everything you need. The whole time, Claire clung to her hand as if fearing to let go. Callan leaned into him so that they had a measure of privacy. Please let me go, she whispered in Audion. She needs me. Darian stared into her eyes for a long time, and she did everything she could to make them do her pleading for her. Please. He tore his gaze away and shook his head, clenching his jaw as if angry with himself. Fine, he grumbled. Yes. Claire squealed and gave Callan a hug. On two conditions. He held up his index finger. Training every day. Callan nodded. The next finger went up. You get some sleep before we leave. When will that be? Tonight, Claire said. Tonight? It had to be urgent. But how was Callan supposed to sleep? The entity was all but waiting for her to falter. She took a breath. We'll be right back. The pointed look she gave Darian had its effect. He stood and went to the front to ask permission for the two of them to step outside. Claire still didn't relinquish her hold, keeping Callan in place. Please, Callan, I can't go home without you. What's wrong? But Claire just shook her head. Please come with me. I'll do my best. Callan gently pried her hand away before joining Darian at the door. You really do like badgering me into things, she said as soon as they were alone. You sleep, we go. I can't. Don't you think I would do anything to sleep? He grinned. Anything? Yes, anything. I'm exhausted. I don't even know how I'm going to make it up the staircase tonight. Even without sleeping, you would manage it. The tree gives us strength when we think we can't go on. The tree. The same tree that made me a saint? The one and only. It's how you've been getting through my training sessions all week, despite me not lightening up on it. She let out a breath. How long does it last? Darren shrugged. I've gone 10 days and still made it through training, battles, and all my other duties. 10! She stared at him. Why would you not sleep? Not like I chose not to. Come on, we have the day off. He started walking, forcing Carolyn to jog to catch up to him. She glowered at him. But it was hard to stay cranky when she realized what it said. Choose, as in you're sleep deprived right now? He glowered at her. Carolyn already gets on my case for it. Please don't join him. When was the last? Pretty sure it's your sleeping pattern we're worried about. But I'm fine. We get really bad at around 10 days. 10. His stomach turned at the thought of going that long without sleeping. And this is day. He released a long, suffering sigh. 7. She altered. You stopped sleeping for as long as me? No, I happened to have a full night's sleep the last time you did. She caught up with him again. So you need sleep too. I'll get mine when you do. What was she supposed to make of that? Okay, I'll stop there. It's going on a bit long, sorry. But I love scenes with these two. It's so fun because it's
Yeah.
just like
Wow. Oh my gosh. So the chemistry and the back and forth between Callan and Darian is just like it's amazing.
yeah.
I was just so grateful to hear them talking back and forth, and he's like, "Oh, I don't want to give in, but I'm giving in." But now this thing with Claire, now I'm wondering, okay, I don't I don't know if I don't think in the first two, like you mentioned that a lot of kids at the school were from other courts, like from other places and stuff, but I don't think we heard about where Claire was actually from.
Yeah. I did actually read that part, but I think you weren't actually on. I think it was actually one of those where you were away. She's actually when you think of the three kings of
Yeah.
Ladrian that James and Ward ended up with, she's the High King's daughter. So she's Hadwin's child. So
Okay.
not a
Wow.
spoiler. It's kind of set up early in the story, but that's
Yeah.
kind of where she, yeah. So
Wow.
when she gets called up, that's kind of big, yeah.
Yeah, that is big. And then I'm thinking, oh, I want to trust her and I guess them, but then it's kind of like, okay, well, she's like,
Yeah, there's
you ask your friend to come, but then at the same time, you're kind of like, I really need you to come with me. And you're thinking, is there an ulterior motive to why you need?
yes.
So,
Probably not what you think, but yes.
ah, okay. Good to know.
Yeah. All right. So shall we do another 15 minutes?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Okay. I'm going to count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. And time. How did you do?
Let's see. Maybe about 500.
Nice. Good going.
Yeah, it really started progressing at this one point. So it's like something happened, and then one thing led to another, so it went faster.
Yippee! That's good. Yeah, I think I at least this time I didn't get any like stuck moments, so I made some progress.
Yeah. Good.
Exactly.
Let's see. Would you like to share first?
I can. Yeah, okay. I'm going to go
Okay.
on where I left off. Let me just. I just need to. I made a mark of where I left off last time so that I don't have to keep. Let me just do myself a favor. I'm just going to make a mark here as well so that I have it. Okay. Yes, I know. Please don't take forever now. I made the mistake of saving. Don't do this. Okay. No, come on. It's terrible. It's not. My goodness. I just put one comment in. It's not. Oh, there we go. Sorry. There we go. See. Right. So I'm going to start where I left off, like the sentence again. What was she supposed to make of that? Could mean anything, of course, but something. No. She wasn't going to assume there was anything deeper to what it said. I might get mine once someone kills Auric, she stated. You know what happens when he takes over, and for some reason he's been waiting for me to sleep to do it. I also know I could stop you from doing anything if he does. Understanding dawned on her. You're going to sit with me? Yes. And if you got lucky the last time he controlled me? He sent her a dark look. Callan, I've been stopping people from killing me since I was 13. I can deal with you. 13? Darian tried for a smirk, but didn't quite pull it off. Great bastards don't earn candidacies. The Five Houses saw me as a threat to be dealt with. But to kill a child? Yes, well, if it makes you feel any better. No assassin ever got to go back to give a refund for failing. Callan's mouth went dry. She looked at him, really looked at him. How many? Fuck knows. Oh, yeah, F-bomb. I forgot about that. Yeah. I stopped counting.
Thanks for the warning.
Yeah, I know. It's like you will. Oh, by the way, spoiler.
Nice.
We are so good at this.
Awesome. Anyway, continue on.
Thank you. Okay, F-bomb again because otherwise I'm going to lose my flow here. Fuck knows. I stopped counting before my 14th birthday. He met her gaze. You know, people have tried to kill me. You saw it happen. Yeah, but those were sent by Nordians? He opened his mouth, then clamped it shut. No, she wouldn't let him not answer. She stopped and grabbed his arm. Darian, my answer would influence you against them. And we give a damn because. Sorry, I'm just realizing this is a very F-bomb rich kind of piece of work here. My answer would influence you against them. And we give a damn because he turned his eyes to the ceiling for a second. Because politics. Fuck politics. The Nordians sent those assassins to kill you. He kept silence. Tell me. More than that. Darian took a deep, long breath, facing her at last. They were Nordians themselves. She gasped and took a step back. And you want me to just fall in and act like them? A tiny smile flitted across his lips. I'd appreciate if you didn't try to kill me. Callan stared at him, aghast. How do you take it and still face them every day? The fact that I won the night despite them helps. His smile turned into a wry grimace. Come on, you're not going to avoid sleep by changing the subject on me. He started walking, forcing her to move if she wanted to keep up. The horror churning inside her didn't subside. Everyone except for Darian had been so kind to her. It had never even crossed her mind that some people could be cruel to someone else for something he didn't even help, or he couldn't even help. No wonder Darian was sullen and moody. Slowly, a glowy sort of realization mingled with the horror, spreading through the darkness like honey. Maybe his unwillingness to be friends wasn't about her. Maybe it was about him, and the fact that he'd been hurt so many times. So she would try to sleep, even if it was terrifying, because guarding over her was something he wanted to do for her. She stole secret glances at him, really paying attention to more than the aura of strength and determination that permeated the air around him. He hid his feelings well, but they were there in the tightness around his mouth, the starkness of his whiskey-colored eyes. You're tired as well, she pointed out. I'm fine. You've had as little sleep as me. He captured her gaze as she glanced his way. Maybe we should worry less about me and more about you. He raised a single dark eyebrow, as if asking if she was okay with that. She rolled her eyes at the sarcasm. And maybe we could say the same about you. I'm fine. You're not. Both eyebrows went up this time. I've had insomnia for years. I'm used to letting the tree sustain me. Another thing to learn about him. And now she knew for sure. She just didn't know what to do with the information. It gave them something in common, another little thing to stack on the ever-growing pile of things that meant they should actually understand each other. But he didn't want to. Or did he? The thought seemed to whisper in the back of her mind, teasing her with the possibility. It tickled and hurt at the same time. Whether he wanted to be her friend didn't matter if he refused to even consider it. If that was true, though, why would he care whether she slept or not? Why did it always feel like he was paying attention, a sentinel to her life? What did that even mean? Frustration clawed at her, but she stamped it out before it could become visible. She was exhausted. Unlike Darian, she didn't feel fine. She was tired and scared and confused, and everything hurt. Any emotions she felt were bound to be the wrong ones. She tamped down on the words in question pressing against her lips, instead walking in silence. Darian led her up to the conservatory. It was exactly as hot inside as all the other times she'd come up here to train. The sudden heat made her skin itch. Callan wrinkled her nose and yanked off her wig. She'd never seen anyone but him and Gawain inside this place since she'd started coming here. That was the nice thing about the place, the relative peace and privacy. She rolled off her skull cap and blazer. Movement from Darian caught her eye, then captured her attention as he took off his jersey and tie. The muscles in his forearms rippled as he rolled back his sleeves. Walk away, she told herself. He's too complicated and sharp. She was too exhausted. What other reason would there be for being so transfixed by his wrists and arms? You're going to die of the heat, he commented. The burning in her face added to her discomfort. Right. She made herself turn away and take off her winter clothes as well, followed by her tie. Good thing, too. The heat was making her heart flutter. She sensed more than heard him move closer. A sizzle in the air brushed against her awareness. His gaze lingered, tracing over her as carefully as an artist taking in his muse. Now she was being fanciful. She faced him to put the traitorous thoughts to death. Instead, her breath caught his eyes. They mesmerized her as he analyzed her face. Did he see this reaction? Yes, he saw everything, especially when she wanted to hide it from him. She did want to hide her reaction to him. It made her weak, exposed her to the worst of his biting sarcasm. But she couldn't make herself breathe until he turned away and walked through the rich green leaves of some plant or the other. Get a grip, she hissed herself, and followed to the center of the conservatory, to the clearing and to the chaise longue. He pointed to it and kept walking. Perfect. Him acting like she was a dog trained to silent commands was just the thing she needed. Callan glared at his back, then lay down on the chaise. Almost as soon as her head touched its back, sweet oblivion claimed her. And now the fun begins. Yeah, so I'm going to stop there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm so glad about that reaction. I'm like, yay!
Oh my gosh. Like,
Yeah.
I don't usually like scream, but I feel like screaming like a little bit because that's just like, what a moment. so much going on between there, and then all of the way that you described it, like, just the subtle hints where she's, like, kind of observing him, she's, like, noting around the eyes and his face and stuff, and, you know, really, like, all those observations that you make just make it so much, like, better and so, like, visual.
Mm.
I mean, that's, like, amazing.
Thank you. I'm starting. I don't know why, but I'm starting to kind of get a feeling you're Team Darian. Just,
Like, I guess the question is, like, what are the different teams? Man, there's, like, so many, I feel like.
yeah,
Um,
I think there are mainly three, but
is there, like,
yeah,
Ward, Darian, and Gwen?
I would actually say Ward is kind of like a distant fourth. Most people are Darian, Gawain, and Quinn, but
Oh, yeah, Gwen.
we
Oh
haven't seen
gosh,
someone
I
else
was
yet.
gonna say there's 4, but yeah, Ward's more of a distant one now.
Yeah.
It seemed like he might be in I guess, the first book, but then he really just kinda dropped off,
Mm.
at least.
Yeah, it was mainly that in the first book. I would say was mainly Claire kind of being uh, busybody-ish, if I can put it that way, because that's
Yeah,
kind of what highlighted that. But like, yeah, I don't want to spoil stuff, but I
I
think
know.
yeah, it's just because this book is kind of going to blow the Claire and or the Cullen and Ward thing out of the water.
What?
Spoiler, but like totally and utterly completely, but like yeah,
Alright, alright.
that was actually something that took me by surprise completely. Not the Ward and Cullen thing not working out, but why it didn't work out, because I was completely like,
Yeah.
mm,
Okay. This is fair enough. I
mm.
like Quinn, but I like Darren too because, like, Darren's got so many different layers.
Yeah, he's got layers and layers and layers and layers.
Layers. And walls and walls and walls and walls. And
Yeah.
lots of, like, to get to the center, you must cross a maze.
Yeah, because he is definitely, that's the thing about him also is he's got those walls, and boy does he defend them. He's not giving any like easy kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of going to miss the days where he kind of gets past that because this is so much fun. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
Oh gosh, this is interesting. I I'm for book 3 to read that, and then if when I actually read that scene as a whole, I'm gonna just be, like, screaming, screaming, screaming. I might stop reading and just be like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah, I have to say that like where she's like staring at his arms, even I'm like, oh. Like that, because in my mind, like Darian is like really, like if I were to rank from top attractive to least attractive, he is, Gawain is actually the more attractive guy, but like because he's really handsome.
Mhm.
But Darian is just like really sexy. Just like in my brain, he's just like really, really one of those. You get people who aren't necessarily like beautiful, but they just have that something the whole freaking time. That's him. So
Yeah.
that like moment where Helen's like, holy, you know,
Yeah.
that's yeah. In my brain also, it's just like every time, and it sounds so weird when I talk about my own writing like this. So it's not like I'm trying to say, oh, but you kind of forget those little moments. If you write, like you forget, and then that one just like went like right in the middle of the. But like, yeah, because I have to say that is just like, yeah, I can just imagine that poor Callan. She's just like, yeah,
Yeah. That kind of expression. I was kinda going like, "Whoa."
yeah.
Just stop there for a moment, just, like, think about that.
It's just take in this moment, ladies.
Exactly. Oh, wow.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right, your
Yeah,
turn.
and the kind of story, that I'm working on, I don't have any characters like that right now, but it's also because she's actually fairly young
Mm,
currently. So that's why I'm trying to like make up for time or um do like certain years at once. So a lot of stuff happens when she's young. So it's kind of like, well, this emotional trauma of past per se, and then a few years happen between like the events of the next big things in her life. So she's going to hit this period of kind of doing nothing, which I'm going to mainly summarize because obviously there's not much going on. But it's going to be like she's going to grow up from that point, and that's going to shape who she is as an adult per se. Because she's
Yeah.
only about 13, almost 14, so she's actually fairly young right now. So I don't really have any of those boy moments. Like she had this small crush on this guy, but
Yeah.
now he's gone. But he's spoiler.
Spoiler.
He will be coming back.
Yay!
So
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
kind
at
of
first,
interesting when you do that.
girls, I think girls are just like, oh, he's so cute. And I have to say, I mean, you can't really write that kind of like Darian moment for someone who's like, he's so cute, because there was nothing cute about what Darian just did to poor Karen.
It's totally different. That's
No.
why I'm waiting on that. So it's more like um in the beginning, she's like she has a crush on this one guy,
Mm,
and she really wants to go to the midwinter ball and just dance with him. So
mm.
it's that
Oh,
kind of
yeah,
crush,
yeah.
moment thing. And so she makes this promise, but then of course she has to leave the estate at least for a little while. And so he's like, just promise me that'll happen someday, and that you won't forget. You'll remember that you
Mm.
promised to save me a dance at the ball. So, spoiler, years into the future, when she is now more of at least either a older teenager or nearly adult,
Mm.
she meets up with him again and doesn't even realize it's him at first, um, at the ball. And of course,
Oh,
he's there for devious purposes. And then she's like, then they end up on different sides. So it's
mm.
like they were on the same side before, and then all these events happen through her childhood, and then they end up on different sides. And so it's gonna be like he's gonna recognize me. He's gonna be like, "Wow, you grow up," and there's that moment of she's kind of like, "Whoa, it's been so long," and she has this fantasized version of him in her head, and now he's changed as well. So then it's I'm so excited once we get to that point, but man, we're still far off from it.
Yeah. But it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that, but I do need to age her up a little bit before that happens. So there's going to be like at least 3 or 4 years
Mm.
passing between when they actually see each other again, which is actually a long time, especially in a book.
If it has to happen, it has to happen.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So I'll read a quick little bit of the excerpt, I guess, maybe. That's all right.
Mhm,
Okay. So we just ended before when the singer she's confronting the singer,
mhm.
and so the singer just said, "Some fairy's death will happen soon." Kira's feet unfroze and she ran through the door. The Wraith Fairy followed her with ease as Kira hurtled back up the stairs. She must have taken a wrong turn, the place unfamiliar as anything to her, especially in the dark, and she ended in a dead end. There's too many ends in there. The doors nearest to her wouldn't budge as she shook their handles and threw her shoulder into them. She clawed at the latch, but it wouldn't turn. The Wraith Fairy took its time and switched the blade to its other hand. It continued to sing its grisly words. Some fairy won't see the morning light. Some fairy won't survive the night. Some fairy didn't choose right. Kira yelled for help, wedging herself into the corner, but no answering sounds answered her call. Man, I keep doing repetitive words. I need to change that. I'll get back to it later. She was alone again. Perhaps it was that realization that set her feet in motion. Some of the training with foreign came back. Her glamour rippled outward, and she wrestled with the Wraith Fairy's mind. It felt slippery as an eel and as putrid as a rotting corpse. It chuckled low in its throat. Some fairy doesn't know the tale. Some fairy is going to fail. Kara gasped as a predatory intent slammed into her mind. Her attempts at glamours fell away, and her whole body shook with adrenaline. Every twisted, greasy hair stood out to her. Every cruel, sharp hook on the dagger appeared in sharp relief to the pale hand that held it. The Wraith Fairy tilted its head to the side within arm's reach of Kira. It sniffed at her again as if confused. Then it growled. Some fairy not from here, some fairy that I'm not allowed to rip and tear. It spat at her and Kira trembled. She wished she still had the chopping knife in her hand. At least it would be something to defend herself. However, its words shook her. Why wasn't it already leaving her for dead and continuing with its mission? She thanked her lucky stars as it turned away, but the feeling of relief ended as the thing crooked its finger. Some fairy to save one life for now, some fairy to still lose somehow. It strode away, and Kira followed with some apprehension. The clank of metal startled her, and Kira heard the grunts as several fairies woke up. The Wraith Fairy had stopped singing, and it seemed that had ended the spell. She tagged behind at a safe distance, not wanting it to change its mind, but also wanting to prevent it from seeking its target again. She needn't have worried. It went to the same room where it had entered and crawled onto the window ledge. Beneath the mat of hair, Kira could swear it grinned. Then it leaped off, falling silently. She rushed to the window, but when she peered down, it was gone. Okay, so that's where I'm going to end for now because I kind of talked for a long time about the other stuff. So.
But I want to know.
I know you want to know who the victim was, who was actually in the bed. Yeah, we might get to that next week. I don't know.
Okay. All right, so are we going to sign off now because it's 8 p.m. on my place, so it's 1-ish EST, I think.
11.
Hmm?
It's 11 here.
11. Sorry.
But yeah, I gotta get a few things done before work today, so I'm so glad that you actually had the stream. At first I was worried that it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, I was worried about it as well because I really thought that I'm not going to get it to work because my computer was really stuffed up, so I don't know what's going on. But at least I managed to get it to stop snarling at me, so that's good. So. All right, but thank you so much for joining me. Yeah, all the best for this coming week, and then we'll be back again next time at 5 p.m. South African time, 11 EST. So then I will be better about getting this on time next week. So
cool.
right, but then yeah, and have a good time at work and all that, all the chores you have to do.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.